is that
That's a lot of music, man.
You know, I had to, because I had to set up Twitter. I had computer stuff. How are you, man?
I'm good. Good to see you.
How was Thanksgiving?
I gave thanks. You know what I gave thanks for the most?
What was that?
The most important thing to give thanks for, in my opinion, and I did for myself, is good health. You know, I'm 65 years old. Things start falling apart here pretty soon. Now the wheels start coming off the bus.
It's funny because a lot of times we're talking to people and they say their age. Oh, I'm 65, and I'm like,
yeah.
Ben is right there, and he's not dealing with what you're dealing with. You know.
Yeah. Well, 65 is 65. You know, one of the things I do is I do hospice. I don't know if I ever told you this. I do hospice work. Like I go visit people. Yeah, I go visit people on hospice, and some of them are 65. Some of them are young, and so do not take your good health for granted. And that's what I do all the time, but I especially gave thanks for it on Thanksgiving is good health. And one of the things that I attribute my good health to,
surprise,
which I've been taking since 1998.
You really think
reform? It used to be called Tangy Tangerine back when I was a kid. When I started, it was Tangy Tangerine, and then they started monkeying around. They called Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And I'm so old, I remember when it was Tangy Tangerine.
Yeah, it's interesting because I made a little comparison today between the Tangy Tangerine liquid and the Tangy Tangerine powder, and Becca just like
Tangy Tangerine liquid.
Yeah, the bottle, the liquid. It comes in a liquid.
Comes in a liquid. I didn't know that. Tangy Tangerine comes in a liquid.
Yeah, man.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I've used the powder for years.
The liquid was. Well, I mean, I don't know which was, if it was the chicken or the egg, but
I didn't know there's a Tangy Tangerine liquid.
Yeah.
You sure? There is. I mean, I don't know all the longevity products, so there might be, but I did not know that.
Yeah, that's because you're too busy. You're too busy telling the truth.
I can't. Yeah, and selling the truth.
There you go. You're too
telling
busy.
The truth and selling the truth.
Too busy with the truth, man. But I'm going to show you real quick. Do you see it here?
Okay. Is it new?
No, not at all.
Okay. I did not know that. But it's not as valuable. You don't get as much value as the powder. The powder gives more value. The powder's more flexibility, more value. I like the powder better. I like the powder better than the tablets too. I know some folks like the tablets. I like the powder. Powder is just a big product. And I've been formulating supplements myself for many years. And I know a good formulation when I see it. And let me tell you, it's not just a good formulation. This is an epic formulation.
Okay. Well, so my comparison said that the powder is a bit superior for a number of reasons. But the Tangy Tangerine liquid, number one, it says that it has a lower glycemic index. And it was the one that was in the pig pack. Which is what made me look it up today and do that comparison because I played a show earlier today where you were talking about the pig pack and you talked about how you met Doc.
Well, what show was it?
It was a Daily with Doc show from last year.
It was like a rerun. So
yeah.
Can you tell the story about how I met Doc?
Yes, if you'd like to tell.
I haven't told that story in a while. It's a cool story though. You think I should tell it?
Well, yes. I'll tell you what I heard. What I recall from what you said was that you'd heard about him, you were interested in what he said, and a mutual friend brought him to your office.
Yeah. That's the gist of it.
I want the good story.
Yeah, in the 90s, there was this guy in Montana, I think he was, who recorded Doc, and he turned into cassette tape. And just mailed it all over the country. Of course, that's the Dead Doctors Don't Lie tape, right? Doc gave a talk. I forgot where he gave this talk. And this guy just recorded it and started sending it out. And there were people like myself who kept getting this cassette tape. Like dozens of them, because this guy literally made thousands, hundreds of thousands of tapes and just blanketed the country with these tapes in 1995, 1996-ish kind of thing. And like a lot of people, I got a whole bunch of these tapes. One day I got a tape in the mail. I looked at it, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. I just didn't think of it. I just stuck it in a drawer. A week later, another tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, stuck it in a drawer. At the end of like a couple months, I had a drawer filled with Dead Doctors Don't Lie tapes that I was just getting in the mail. And I had been doing talks myself on nutrition in my pharmacy, on skin mostly, but also on nutrition and helping people understand nutrition. I know in a small way I was doing it. And one day I just decided to, I don't know what got into me. I said, I'm going to listen to this tape. And I put the tape in, and oh my God, I was so blown away. First of all, his voice, the way they recorded it, it made it sound like he was Moses on Mount Sinai, giving the 10 Commandments, right? You know what I'm talking about? The way he talked, the recording. And so it was just powerful as could be. And then he was saying things that I knew from pharmacy school. For example, we talked about soil deficiencies in pharmacy school. We talked about selenium in pharmacy school. We talked about glucosamine in pharmacy school. We talked about bone broth in pharmacy school. The things he was talking about were things I knew. I knew he was right. And I knew nobody was really talking about it. And the sound of his voice was so incredible that I just couldn't get enough of this thing. And I kept listening and listening and listening over and over and over again to this stuff because I was going to use this stuff in my talks. I was going to incorporate some of his wisdom in my talks. And then one day I'm in the gym, I'm lifting weights with my buddy Russ, and he's spotting me. I'm doing bench press, he's spotting me. And I happened to mention, I said, I've been listening to this guy, Dr. Wallach, this tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. And Russ says to me, I'll never forget, he goes, I know Dr. Wallach. Like, what? You know, how do you know? Dr. Wallach comes to Colorado all the time. And back then, he was just starting longevity. It was called American Longevity back then. And he was coming to Colorado. Colorado was one of his main centers for growing the company. And I'm not sure why that was. I think he had some distributors there, some big distributors that started in Colorado. And he would come to Colorado all the time. It was a regular place for him. And so Russ goes to me, hey, yeah, you want to meet Dr. Wallach? I'm like, what? I couldn't believe. Are you serious? Because I'm listening to this guy's tape, and he sounds like some, deity of some kind. And then he says, you want to meet him? I'm like, what? Of course I want to meet Dr. Wallach. And I didn't think anything of it. But then, I don't know, a couple weeks later, I'm looking out the window of my lab. I had this laboratory pharmacy, and I look out the window, and there is this little guy with a cowboy hat, and
the cowboy hat. That's great.
He had a cowboy hat, and he was chunkier. And he didn't look like Moses on Mount Sinai. And he came in, and man, we just hit it off. And he didn't realize that I'd been listening to his tapes for so much. I was like repeating back to him. He thought he was talking to his alter ego, his doppelganger, because I was repeating back to him things that I had heard from the tape. And then he says to me, hey, I go out of town a lot. I travel, and I have this radio show, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. You want to do the radio show? You can be my second, my fill-in.
Wow.
And next thing I know, I'm Dr. Wallach's fill-in, and the company was very small then. It was like, I don't know, maybe 500 people in the whole company, 1,000 people, something like that in the whole company. And that's how I started. And I became the pharmacist and the scientist, and that's just 30 years ago when the company was started. It was the second year. I wasn't there the first year, but I was there the second year. And I just kind of got grandfathered in, and I became part of the company. And now I'm part of the company. I've been doing it for, next thing you know, cut to the chase, it's 27 years later. What the heck? 27 years. I'm 65 now. When I started, I wasn't even 40. When I started, I was like 37 or 38 when I started. I was the kid. I was the young guy. I was the youngest guy. Next, Steve was younger than me, but for the most part, I was really just this young kid. And I just I got grandfathered in.
Wow. I mean, you got to tune in to Ben's Bites to hear the beautiful stories like that. I mean, that's
a cool story. Dr. Wallach was great, man. And when I first met him, he was just brilliant. I loved talking to him. And he would talk, and I don't know if you ever saw him after a talk. He would talk for hours. He would do a talk, like a presentation, and then he'd stay in the hotel, in the lobby in the hotel, and he would talk to people until 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. and he would just talk about health and about nutrition and about people's health issues. And he had like he hold court. And there'd be a bunch of people around until 2 or 3 in the morning, and he had just given a talk, his talk for like 4 hours. You know, did you ever see one of his talks?
You know, I didn't see him give a presentation like that, but I worked a booth with him, and I saw at, you know, post accident, post, you know, 85 years old.
Yeah.
The man had more endurance
than
everybody in the group. He's, you know what he reminded me of? I remember going to a parade years ago, and it was old, like World War II veterans, and they were like the Flag Corps, and they were standing there, and they stood at attention for the whole event, and it was like these guys had to be in their 80s, and 2-hour event, didn't scratch their nose, like did not move. And I was just like, and this is what Doc reminded me of. These people who are exceptional with their discipline and their drive and their stamina, just incredible.
Yeah, their stamina.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And but I'm very glad that he was smart enough to see good talent when he did.
Yeah, he knew good talent.
Yeah.
Back in the day, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie show, we were on like 150 stations at one time. That was a big thing, man. The Dead Doctors Don't Lie in the early 2000s, the late 90s.
And you knew.
I wonder if anybody here remembers that.
Anybody here, and put it in the chat if you remember the Dead Doctors Live radio show.
Yeah, like the early 2000s when it was a serious show.
Yeah, I mean, I started listening to it maybe. I started listening to it consistently, maybe 2017.
That long ago?
2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been listening for like 8 or 9 years. When did you sign up?
First, I bought my first products probably 2019, 2020.
Okay, got it.
But then I became a distributor. I don't know. You'd have to ask Becca. It was a while ago. You know, it was a couple of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
All right. I want to get into some health stuff. Can we do that?
Well, I need you to talk a little bit about HRT.
You don't want me to talk about other stuff? You think people are wanting to hear HRT?
Well, this is what we advertised that you'd be talking about.
All right. Then I'll do HRT. And I think I said that the last time I said we would do HRT. I think I said that.
We kind of did, yeah.
Okay, good. So let's talk a little HRT. I'm going to try and screen share here because I want to show you something. Can I screen share or do you have to do it?
You have the power.
I have the power to screen share here. Let me say screen share. Select window. Let me see here. Let's see. Let me see if this goes here. That's not it. Not now. That's the wrong screen. It says screen sharing is not allowed.
No.
That's what it says. I just saw.
You're an admin. Come on, man.
All right. So let's do this here. Okay. So you see that, right? Okay. Now let me show you this. Can you see that?
I do.
Okay. So that is they call it the steroidogenesis pathway. Okay. This is how steroid hormones are made in the adrenal glands. And it's similar to how they're made other places, but we'll use the adrenal glands as an example. It looks like a big mess, right?
Where else are they made besides the adrenal glands?
In the ovaries, testes, skin.
Okay.
Can you see my cursor? I can't tell. Can you see my cursor?
I cannot see the cursor.
Okay. So you see where it says cholesterol at the top?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you see pregnenolone next to it. An arrow goes down to pregnenolone.
Yes.
And now go all the way to the right where the blue is.
Mm-hmm.
And you see estradiol and testosterone, right? All the way to the right where the blue is.
Yes, in the bottom.
Estradiol and testosterone.
Yes, sir.
And then if you look where estradiol, you'll see estrone goes into estradiol.
Yep.
Okay, so forget everything else, but just remember cholesterol at the top. See cholesterol?
Oh, yep.
And I wish I had a cursor. You can't really see my cursor, huh?
No, I don't see a cursor.
All right. So cholesterol at the top, and then the cholesterol goes, you see the arrow goes to pregnenolone?
Yes.
And then you see the arrow goes to progesterone.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you look at pregnenolone and you see an arrow go to the right, there's another type of pregnenolone, 17-OH pregnenolone. You see that?
Yep. Yep.
And then next to that is dehydroepiandrosterone.
Yep.
That's called DHEA.
Okay.
Okay, that's all you need to know. Cholesterol at the top, pregnenolone and its partner in crime, its cousin next to it, and then DHEA.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other end, you have estrone, estradiol, and testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Those are all things you need to know. Forget everything in the middle. All right? They're interesting, but forget everything in the middle for now. The reason this is important is because the first 1, 2, 3, 4 hormones here, cholesterol, pregnenolone, progesterone, and dehydroandrosterone, you see there's a bunch of ways they can get transformed. They can get turned into other things. There's arrows going to other things. But if you go to testosterone, estradiol, and estrone, there's no other arrows there. That's the end of the line. Mm-hmm. Right? Are you with me so far?
Yes.
The end of the line hormones are much more dangerous than the beginning of the line. The beginning of the line, the cholesterol, pregnenolone, and DHEA, and progesterone, there's lots of ways the body can transform those, can work with those. Those are raw materials. The ones at the end, those are highly toxic. And this is why the ones at the end are drugs and the ones at the beginning aren't. Are you with me?
Yes.
The reason these ones at the bottom are drugs and much more dangerous is because, number one, they can't get broken down. They got to get detoxified. And if you're not detoxifying, a lot of people aren't, because you have liver problems or intestinal problems or gallbladder problems, which everybody has, all these things, these will start to accumulate. And then you're in big trouble. And if you're taking them as hormone replacement therapy, HRT, you're now putting a lot of things in your system that your system does not have the ability to detoxify or has an impaired ability to detoxify. Are you with me?
Yes. As
we age, particularly as metabolic syndrome kicks in, but also as intestinal problems kick in, we don't detoxify effectively. And now you're adding these things exogenously to drugs. And you're adding them into the body at doses that are much higher than physiologic doses. The doses they give you in HRT are much higher because they've got to account for your body cleaning it out, eliminating some of it. So they give you high doses of these things. So first of all, they're at the end of the line, so they're inherently toxic. The body has they're in the blood in very, very tiny levels at very, very tiny concentrations. They got to be detoxified. So you got problems there. And number two, many people don't detoxify correctly. And number three, the doses they give you are really huge relative to what's in the body. But it gets worse. Can you see the problem so far?
I do see that problem.
Okay, but there's worse. And this is the biggest problem. The steroid hormones, testosterone and estrogen, and estrone, estradiol are types of estrogen. Testosterone and estrogen, the end of the line steroid hormones, which have to be detoxified, they interact with a whole slew of other hormones and neurotransmitters, with dopamine, with serotonin, with thyroid hormone, with insulin, with cortisol. And so it's very, very difficult to control all the variables. Everything is tightly networked. And when you take extra of one at high levels, it throws off all the other ones. And there's no way to predict. There's no way to know what your hormone replacement therapy is going to do to your serotonin or to your dopamine or to your insulin or to your cortisol or to your thyroid hormone. You can't control it. There's no possible way to know. It's way, way, way too complicated. The body is designed to make hormones in a system. So when it makes one hormone, it lowers the other hormone, or it makes one hormone, it makes more of this hormone. It's all adjusted through millions of years of evolution. And now you're going to throw in 3 hormones out of, really, if you look at these are all metabolites, but they're all part of the hormone system, 3 out of a whole bunch, and expect not to have interactions somewhere that's going to affect something. It's impossible. So with hormone replacement therapy, you have to be very, very careful. There are some people who will temporarily benefit from it. There's some people who will benefit from it, but we don't know what it's going to do in the long run to the body. To compound that problem, there are tremendous financial incentives of these hormone replacement clinics and hormone replacement companies and HRT testing companies. And there's a whole industry built around it. And it's very easy to convince people who don't understand science that there's this simplistic idea. Oh, we just give you more testosterone. Oh, your testosterone's low. We'll just give you more testosterone. It's a simplistic, simple-minded idea to think that you could just throw one hormone into the mix and somehow everything else will adjust itself and you won't run into problems anywhere else. So last thing I'll say is I'm not saying it's necessarily a problem, but it can definitely be a problem. And I would be very, 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 very careful with hormone replacement therapy. And I think it's much more prudent to work on metabolic syndrome, digestive health, and the adrenal thyroid link, adrenal health, basically, which is what? The triangle of disease. That's a much more effective way to deal with deficiencies in certain hormones or a lowered response to hormones, whether it's testosterone or estrogen. That's typically what they're talking about. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
A lot of times I hear of people receiving the third one down on the first. I do see a mouse now. The third one down on the first column, progesterone. That one is the one that I hear about.
That one is, and that's over the counter. I make a progesterone in my pharmacy, a progesterone spray. You can see it's the third one down. It's at the beginning. And it's very, very benign and very mild compared to estrogen, which is at the very end. And that's estradiol, which is a type of estrogen. So at the very end, you see estradiol, right?
Yes.
So progesterone is almost near the beginning. You notice it all starts from cholesterol. And the first steroid hormone is pregnenolone, right? Then progesterone. Estrogen's at the very end. See, this progesterone, this can get converted into 17-hydroxyprogesterone, and then androstenedione, and then testosterone. Progesterone can also get converted into deoxycorticosterone. So the body has options here. Estradiol, there's no options. Estradiol has to be cleaned out. And if you're dealing with an intestinal problem, or a gallbladder problem, or a bile problem, or a liver problem, and pretty much everybody past a certain age is going to have something in the liver, or the gallbladder, or the intestine. You're going to have a problem detoxifying estradiol. And what then happens is the body will kind of merge 2 molecules together, estradiol or estrogen, with something called a catechol, CATECHOL. And this catechol estrogen is incredibly toxic. It's super estrogen. So if your body is not clearing out estrogen correctly, you're playing with fire, really.
Okay. And
get yourself on an estrogen supplement.
I have a couple questions.
HRT.
What are the side effects of this super estrogen?
Weight gain, hair loss, or no, not hair loss necessarily, but weight gain, fatigue, dysmenorrhea, problems with the menstrual cycle, or problems with fertility, or problems with the reproductive system, breast problems, cancer. That's a huge problem. Cancer, growths, fibroids, gallbladder issues, bile issues, These are all problems associated with toxic estrogen, as well as fatty liver. It could, like I said, it could throw off other hormone systems, including cortisol. It's just a big mess. We used to call, in pharmacy school, we used to call estrogen the S show hormone. You can fill in the blank for S.
Yeah, the sunny show.
What?
Not the sunny show?
No, it rhymes with hit, and it starts with an S.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a mess.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the worst things that excess estrogen or toxic estrogen or catechol estrogen can do is it can inflame the intestine. What do you think happens when your intestine's inflamed?
You can't absorb nutrients, that's for sure.
Number one, yes, you can't absorb nutrients. Number two,
you get a leaky gut.
Exactly. And then you're off to the disease races.
What is this section in the pink called? It says glucosteroid. I can't read.
Those are glucocorticoids, and that's the classic one is cortisol at the bottom.
Blood sugar related steroids. Is that what you're
saying?
No,
not blood sugar. They have because the glucose. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes.
No, not necessarily. Although it does affect blood sugar. I don't know if that's why. Maybe that is why they call it glucocorticoids. That might be why. Because cortisol does. It's one of its most important effects is its effects on glucose. I don't think that's why they call it that. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Pharmacist Ben. So then, Longevity has got this Hope system, which does not.
I heard great things about it.
It does not replace hormones. It apparently assists.
You might be able to get away with it though, and not use your hormones. You won't have the same hormonal benefits, but you'll have some of the anti-menopause benefits. Mm-hmm. You know, there's this myth out that you can improve menopausal symptoms with HRT, things like night sweats and hot flashes. And there are some people, in fairness, who get benefits from these kinds of things. Progesterone is actually a better way to deal with those kinds of symptoms than just straight estrogen, but there are some people who get benefits. However, estrogen is not the reason. Estrogen is involved in night sweats and hot flashes, but it's not the cause of the night sweats. I shouldn't say that. There are triggers to the night sweats and hot flashes that are non-hormonal. Let's put it that way. Mostly histamines from the intestine and from foods. And that's why I always tell people, I always think this is funny, so I'll say it again. I know I've said it before, but it always cracks me up. How, what is a woman? You don't know this, AJ, probably. Becca, is Becca on the call?
Becca's in the background. She's trying to hide from people.
Put Becca on.
She's trying to hide.
You don't know the answer to this.
Becca, turn your mic on at least.
Oh, Becca doesn't want to come on. Oh, that's right. Becca, turn your mic on. Becca?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, here you are. What is a menopausal woman's favorite food and not food, but snack or
I know that answer.
Chocolate.
And what else?
Oh goodness, mine is popcorn.
Wine and cheese. Don't tell me you're not about the wine and cheese. Always wine and cheese. And it always cracks me up. Wine, cheese, and chocolate contain chemicals like histamines that cause hot flashes and night sweats. And women who have hot flashes and night sweats oftentimes are enjoying wine and cheese and chocolate, because everybody's enjoying wine and cheese and chocolate. So when I tell somebody, and obviously Becca, hot flashes and night sweats are miserable, right? And so women will say, what do I do about these night sweats and the hot flashes? And I'll say, well, I'll tell you one thing you can do. You can lay off the wine and cheese, and man, that never goes over well at all. That never goes well.
I feel very fortunate because
What's that?
I feel very fortunate because I never had those hot flashes.
Well, because you were supplemented, right?
I found longevity just at the perfect time.
Yes, exactly. That's my point, is that there's many things you could do for hot flashes and night sweats and menopausal issues, anxiety and depression, and weight gain. There's a lot of things you could do that don't involve hormones. That involve nutrition. that involve patching up a leaky gut and working on the microbiome and using your ultimate enzymes and bile salts and the ultimate EFAs, which are almost like I don't want to say they're estrogen, but they have some of the benefits of estrogen you get from the ultimate EFAs. So there's a lot of things with nutrition and with dietary strategies to give you the same benefits as estrogen for ameliorating or mitigating menopausal symptoms without having to deal with the whole hormone thing, or doctors for that matter, or prescription drugs. So you asked about Hope. Hope is one of those products. It isn't going to necessarily, doesn't have any hormonal benefits, but it has adaptogenic benefits that can help reduce the incidence of the symptoms of menopause. So I'm not a big believer in the whole hormone thing, although I will say there are some people who swear by it and who definitely get benefits. Seems to me like it's kind of playing with fire.
Pharmacist Ben, understood. But, as I was doing a little bit of reading, it said that hormone replacement therapy should not be used by women who had a history of breast cancer.
Why do you suppose? What's your guess?
Well, because, I know some people who have breast cancer, they get rid of the lymph nodes. So
why do you suppose, why would it be contraindicated if you have breast cancer? Because estrogen, hormone replacement therapy, which is estrogen, is carcinogenic. It's on the FDA's known to cause cancer list. It makes cells divide. What's the job? What's estrogen's main job? It's to make a baby. It's to grow a baby. It makes cells divide. So estrogen makes cells divide. If you have a history of cancer, that's the last thing you want in your system. But not even if you had a history of cancer, nobody should want that. It makes cells divide.
See, that was my point. I mean, if someone shouldn't have it if they had a history of cancer, why should it be okay for everybody else?
Bingo.
Which was
bingo. You're smarter. Yeah, bingo. Bingo. Exactly. Exactly the point. There was a book. The whole estrogen story is really fascinating. There was a book that came out in the 1960s called Feminine Forever, and it revolutionized this whole idea of using of the anti-aging business. The pharmacological approach to anti-aging was revolutionized by this book, Feminine Forever. It was written by a doctor. It was paid for by a drug company, or supported at least by a drug company that made estrogen. And in this book, this guy, this is 1964, it was still, we didn't really know a lot. Science was very primitive. Medical science was very primitive in 1964. And he wrote a book extolling the virtues of estrogen, how you could stay feminine forever. And the drug company Ayers came up with their best-selling drug. When I graduated pharmacy school in 1986, we filled this thing like it was Skittles every day, thousands of pills, thousands of Premarin pills. Premarin was, have you heard of this? It was Ayers' drug, Ayers' version of estrogen. It was conjugated estrogens that you took at a dose that was maybe 10 or even 100 times physiologic doses, because it got metabolized by the liver. All drugs have to get metabolized by the liver, so they give you higher doses than you really need. And so they give you the super high dose of Premarin, which stood for pregnant mare urine. Did you know this? Pregnant mare urine, Premarin, because they kept these mares, these horses, in stalls, and they kept them pregnant, and they collected their urine, and they turned it into Premarin, pregnant mare urine, because it had all this estrogen in it, because they were pregnant.
Did they ever have a liquid form of Premarin?
I'd be really careful about it. They did have a liquid form, but now that I think about it, it was really yellow. And it had a really bad smell. Oh my God, AJ. Oh my God. It never dawned on me. Oh, don't be silly.
Sorry, man.
It was just a tablet. But something interesting happened. I graduated in 86, and we would give Premarin a lot. But then in 1990, they discovered that if you don't give progesterone with your estrogen, you run much higher risk for cancer, because progesterone balances out estrogen. So around early 1990s, they mandated that whenever a doctor wrote for progesterone or for Premarin, they'd have to have progesterone with it to balance out the estrogen. But the problem was, it's like crazy when I think about it. The problem was They didn't mandate progesterone like from this progesterone. Can you see my cursor here? Can you see my cursor, my arrow?
I see it.
Okay, see progesterone?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't mandate progesterone. They mandate progesterone, but that's not what the drug companies did. They gave something called progestin. So this is how drug companies operate. Progesterone, that is generic. You can't patent that. But progestins you can patent. So what the drug companies like to do is they like to put a little bend in the molecule. You know, let me see here. Hang on a second. You know what this is? This is Marty the molecule.
Uh-huh. Which molecule is that, by the way?
It's not. It's a massager. It looks like a molecule.
That's funny. But it looks just like a molecule. Okay.
It looks like a molecule, so I like it. So what the drug companies do is they'll introduce a little bend, a little kink, right? And then they'll patent it. But the problem is that turns the substance from completely non-toxic to deadly toxic. And progestins are nasty, nasty, nasty drugs. The most famous one is called Provera, medroxyprogesterone. And so doctors started giving them medroxyprogesterone, and that didn't help. People still ended up with health problems. Bottom line is that there's non-hormonal ways to achieve the same goal. In my opinion, those are the best ways to do it, number one. And number two, if you are going to be on HRT, make sure your liver and your intestine and your gallbladder, all the detox systems you're working on them. You're working on if you have fatty liver disease, you're working on metabolic syndrome. If you have a gallbladder problem or bile issue, you're working on your digestion and using your ultimate enzymes. If you have an intestinal problem like SIBO, which can really potentize estrogen, you're working on using your I-26 and staying off FODMAPs foods, and just doing all the things to stay healthy. It may turn out you don't even need the hormone replacement therapy once you do that as well.
Okay, Pharmacist Ben.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions, but I want to, and thank you for that presentation. We have a good number of questions here. Can we stop your share so we can see you up close and personal? All right.
Yes,
so let's
stop
see.
Sharing.
All right. So I want to start with this before I get into the other questions. There's someone on YouTube named JS. I need to hear your opinion of
You can't
this.
be. That's. I don't want to diss on anybody's experience, but there's no such thing as being allergic to products. That's not a thing. You can be allergic to proteins, and that's really what people are allergic to. And you can be allergic to certain things, but you're not going to be allergic to like 2,000 different products. That's not a thing.
Okay, so what if somebody says they're allergic to Tangy Tangerine? What say Ben?
There's nothing allergenic in Tangy Tangerine. However, for people who have an unstable immune system or leaky gut, there could be histamine triggers in beyond Tangy Tangerine. That's not allergens, though. So when you say, and I understand to a layperson, maybe they're the same thing, basically. But the reason that's important to make a distinction here is because an allergen is something that anybody can react to. Histamine trigger is something that requires an unstable immune system. Even allergies will typically only happen if the immune system's unstable. But histamine reactions, which can happen to avocados or leftover meat or cheese or yogurt, foods that you would consider not problematic, those can happen if somebody has an unstable immune system, particularly at the level of the intestine. And so histamines, aldehydes, those kinds of things. So for this gentleman, you're not allergic. That's not a thing. What could be happening, however, is you could have an imbalance in certain immune chemicals at the level of the gut, which means you got to work on your intestinal health. You're not allergic to the longevity products. That's not happening.
You know what's interesting? I remember, doing a show with Dr. Wallach so often, and anytime somebody said that they had an allergy, he said, "You have a gut issue."
It's true. He's right.
They said, well, I'm allergic to this. He said, you got a gut issue.
Yes. Even hay fever and pollen allergies, gut issue. And that's very important. And for two reasons. First of all, because it's right. He's correct. But secondly, because it sounds so simplistic that it's almost like caricature. And Doc, he would do this. Doc he liked to simplify things. He knew he was a smart guy. He was not a dummy, but he knew he was talking to people who didn't necessarily. One of my problems is I talk too much. I'm too complicated. Doc simplified things.
So I've had conversations with Doc about you and about your approach.
Yeah.
And me and Doc have had it out about you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
because I want people to really understand but Doc is obtaining it differently. And you know what? Doc, I don't have a company. Doc has a company. I'm just a pharmacist working for Doc. We're working in his company.
Doc would always say, they don't need to know all of that.
They don't need to know all that. They don't need to know all
tell them what product.
I know. I get it. I get that. But you know what? I think it's respectful. And I don't want to be somebody's God or somebody's king or somebody's boss or somebody's authority. I don't want to do that. I want you to be your authority. I'm respecting you. And yeah, I do kind of, over talk sometimes, or maybe go into too much detail.
What you just explained with HRT should be put in the Smithsonian too.
Well, because
because that was fantastic.
It's just that I'm saying it. It's not that hard. I don't think it's that complicated, but it does require a little bit of brain power. That's all, a little bit. And God love Doc, he was making things simple. But my point I was making was, it sounds so simple to say just the gut. Doc did it with gluten, okay? All right, it's not just gluten, there's other things. But his point is what you're eating has an impact on your heart disease, on your Alzheimer's disease, on your lupus, on your myasthenia gravis, on your transerythroid amyloidosis cardiomyopathy. I'll never forget that, right? Right? On your retinitis pigmentosa. What you're eating is having an effect on that. And why is that important? Number one, because it works. And number two, because we can do it ourselves. That's, to me, is the most important message here. We can do this ourselves.
Okay, well, this person is asking a question that a lot of our viewers know.
How can you?
How do you fix the leaky gut?
Okay, so for JSJE9JR, I don't have any idea how you would say that. Right back, because I imagine he's listening to us. Right back and tell me what your digestive thing is. How gas, bloating, clogged up, constipation, whatever, heartburn. Right back and tell us what's going on there, and I'll help you with your leaky gut. I'll tell you the best product right at the top of the bat for your leaky gut. You know what that is, right?
Must be I-26.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right, I'm learning, man. I'm learning.
I-26. I-26. So here's how you deal with a leaky gut. And there you go. And remember,
wait, by the way, Ben. By the way, I'm sorry, but I love my chewables too. They just taste so good.
Chewables are good. They're tasty. They're like candy. And you can take that whole bottle. There's no toxicity. There's no limit or anything.
I've eaten like 6 in a day.
They're like candy.
It's bad.
Okay, fair enough. So here's how you deal with leaky gut. First of all, you got to control the bacteria, because one of the major causes of leaky gut is SIBO. So you got to work on the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. You can diagnose yourself. Eat dried fruit. If you eat dried fruit and you feel bloated and gassy and discomfort, chances are pretty good you got SIBO. Eat something sweet and mushy and see what happens. They call them the FODMAPs foods, right? These are foods you want to stay away from, but to diagnose yourself with SIBO, eat some FODMAPs foods and see what happens. Most people who have leaky gut are going to have SIBO. Superstar for SIBO, I-26. Okay, now, when you have SIBO, you don't necessarily want to get on a probiotic supplement. You want to kill off some of that bacteria. Some people will take a probiotic and their symptoms will get worse. A lot of that is because they already got too much bacteria going on. So you want to kill off the bacteria. If you go to a doctor, they'll give you antibiotics. Doctors now know about SIBO, by the way. Alternative practitioners will use neem oil, oregano oil, peppermint oil. These essential oils will kill will kill bacteria. I personally like the I-26. You can do both if you want. So that's first of all.
Will essential oil kill the bacteria in the small intestine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's the small intestine, what we're talking about here, not the large intestine. It's all about the small intestine. Then you want to keep foods out of the system that you react to. Don't go by good food, bad food lists. You want to do a food diary and stay away from foods that cause you problems.
Where can they find a food diary?
criticalhealthnews.com. You'll get a free food diary.
Sign up for the newsletter on criticalhealthnews.com. You'll get a free food diary so that you can keep track of the foods that bother you.
Yes. And sometimes it takes a couple weeks, and sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it takes a couple months. And it's not easy, but some people have problems with tomatoes. Some people have problems with lettuce. So you can't really go by the good food, bad list. You got to do food diary. Stay away from problem foods. That's the second thing. Then you can do things to strengthen the gut and anti-inflammatories for the gut. So one of the best gut strengthening supplements is vitamin A. So I'd be using high doses of vitamin A. I don't know if we have any young vitamin A in the longevity line that have high doses. 20,000 IU of vitamin A a day. Also Fucoid Z. Also collagen peptides. Also glucogel caps. In fact, anything the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack would help with leaky gut. You understand why? The Healthy Bone and Joint Pack is building connective tissue, right? Yes. And then the Fucoid will help you with the mucus, the slimy layer on the surface. And remember, when you have leaky gut, you're not absorbing nutrients. I don't think that is a vitamin A. How much? Somebody wrote that. Did you write that about?
Becca did. It was about 500.
Yeah, that's good.
It was about 500. I'm sorry.
500 or 5,000?
500.
Oh, well, that's not enough. You need like 10,000 or so. So that's vitamin A. I don't know if you get that from any longevity products, but vitamin A is really helpful. Fried foods are very inflammatory for the intestine. You know how docs always talk about fried oils and distorted oils, heated oils? He's right, 100% correct. And one of the worst parts of the body, or one of the most sensitive parts of the body to oils and to fried fats, is the intestine. Also, interestingly, while we're on the topic, estrogen can be inflammatory for the intestine, especially catechol estrogens can be inflammatory. And by the way, once you have leaky gut, you're more prone towards histamine and something called LPS, lipopolysaccharide, LPS, entering into the bloodstream. And both of those are superchargers for estrogen. So there's a major relationship between estrogen toxicity and leaky gut. And if you try and go on HRT and don't correct the leaky gut, you are seriously playing with fire, in my humble opinion. So anyway, patch up the gut with collagen peptides, bone building or connective tissue building nutrients, glucogel caps. Use Fucoid and Z for the mucus. I-26. Stay away from problem foods. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Fucoid Z. There's probably other things too. I'm not saying. Eventually, you want to be on the nightly essence. It wouldn't hurt you to work upstream and use bile salts and the ultimate enzymes. I'm sure I'm not giving you comprehend everything. There's probably something I'm missing, but that's a good start. Ultimate EFAs, butyrate. There's something called butyrate, butyrate. I forgot which one of our products had butyrate.
How about butter? Can we use butter?
Butter, yes, and butter. Very important for intestinal health. Butyrate is staying away from sugar, FODMAPs kinds of sugars. We talked about that, I guess. The mushy sugars, starch, things like pears, bananas, mushy stuff. Dry fruits are notorious.
Pharmacist Ben, we have a question about CICs, but before we go to that, someone on Rumble, thank you Rumble for being with us. What causes placenta previa during some pregnancies?
What was the other thing you said before that we were going to talk about?
Circulating immune complexes.
Yeah, how did that come up? Does somebody wants to know about those?
Yeah, it's a client of mine actually who you've spoken to personally in the past.
About CICs, or they knew about CICs before?
Well, he had heard you mention CICs, He's got a big problem with CICs.
Okay, good. We'll talk about that here in a second. It's a very interesting subject. So we got to call
Placenta previa.
Yeah, placenta previa. So placenta previa is a condition where the placenta will, it's kind of a complication of pregnancy. The placenta will cover up the cervix, the uterus. The cervix is the opening to the uterus. And the main symptom is going to be like bleeding. It can be a problem. It's more of a mechanical issue, I would say. It could be a growth issue, but I think it's more of a mechanical issue than nutrition. What was the question about it?
What causes it during pregnancy?
I think it's more of a mechanical issue. You know, for all the tissues to grow correctly in a pregnant woman, everything has to happen just so. And every once in a while, it does not just happen just so. If I had to guess, I would say there was some inflammation in the area. And if there's inflammation in the area, that means something is getting into the bloodstream that is initiating an inflammatory or an immune response. So the real way to answer that question is to ask for or look for or ask for comorbidities. And that's a really, really important concept when it comes to figuring out how things happen in the body, is look for comorbidity. Comorbidity is other things that are going on. For somebody who has this condition, placenta previa, like, you know, we were always talking, you can't work on the fruit. You got to go upstream. You can't work on a condition where you see the condition. And upstream from conditions like placenta previa, oftentimes you'll find inflammation. Now, I'm not necessarily convinced that it's not a mechanical issue. I don't know enough about it, so I can't answer that. It might be something that's just mechanical. The tissue grows out of place. But I would look for comorbidities if you really wanted to know if you really want to know if there was a cause for it in a particular patient. Look for comorbidity, particularly anything that's inflammatory, any other inflammatory health challenge.
CICs.
All right, so CICs stands for circulating immune complexes, right? So what does that mean? Well, circulating means it's in the blood. It circulates. When something circulates, that means the blood. So when you're circulating, you're talking about the blood. Immune means protective cells, defensive cells. Complexes means a combination, exactly, of the immune cells and the bad guy. This complex floats around or circulates in the blood. Why? Remember, the blood is the sacred space. Everything is kept just so. The pH, the oxygen, the fluid, the viscosity, the coagulation, the heat, everything. There's so many parameters and criteria and specifications that have to be kept just so. If an enemy gets inside the blood, that represents a major problem. Major. The blood is the most tightly regulated system in all of biology, is the blood. So the body has a way of protecting against the toxin, the bad guy. It will surround it with immune cells, forming a complex, forming a circulating immune complex. And doctors will use CICs as a diagnostic tool or measurement to assess if there's an immune reaction happening somewhere in the body. And CICs are typically associated with autoimmune diseases, where you have lots of immune factors going on. And so when they suspect multiple sclerosis or some kind of autoimmune issue, they'll look for CICs in the blood. But the real question is how does the bad guy get into the blood to start an immune reaction? That's the question, right? How does this whole thing start? How do you deal with it?
So you're standing on the street corner injecting crack.
Yeah, that'll do it. Most people aren't doing that. What are most people doing to put toxins in the blood?
Eating pizza.
This is the triangle. I didn't just roll out of bed one day and come up with the triangle. This is biochem. This is how this is how disease happens. It starts with toxicity in the blood. I cannot think of a possible chronic degenerative condition that is not somehow linked. There probably is one, but I can't think of it. But the vast majority of chronic conditions start off at the level of the intestine and the blood.
So
at that
Popeye's chicken is the cause of our problem.
Popeye's chicken can be a serious problem for folks who have autoimmune diseases. Why? For a lot of reasons, but just the first thing that comes to mind is the fried fat.
So my friend with the CICs has still got a leaky gut. No matter what he thinks, he's got a leaky gut.
Unless they're injecting, unless he's eating completely pristinely, completely correctly, everything's correct, and he's shooting things up. He's injecting things. I doubt that.
Okay, well, I mean, he's had bone marrow transplant. So,
well, there you go. He has a history of immune problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, his CICs are preceded his bone marrow issues, his cancer issues. I imagine leukemia or whatever he had. His leaky gut issues preceded all of that. Now, I'm guessing, based on what you just said, this guy's in his 50s or 60s probably, right? So, when he was a kid, is this a friend of yours or somebody on the call? Or
someone you've spoken to in the past.
All right. So, I mean, sure, he has a history of leaky gut, gluten problems, digestive issues, and it's not to knock anybody. That's just our culture,
He's a good man. I just want to see him get better.
What's that?
He's a good man. I'd like to see him get better. When I was listening to you, as I said, I was listening to a repeat show that you were doing, and it said, and you were talking about how cells sit in the matrix.
Yes.
And then you said the ingestion of matrix material.
Yes.
Is how you would want the matrix to improve.
Damn, I say some good stuff there.
First of all, that show, I'm so glad I played it because it was an amazing show.
Yeah,
you and Becca were doing, like, you guys were on fire. But at any rate, my question is,
eating matrix material will help build your matrix. Yes.
How, if you have bad matrix material,
yes,
and you're ingesting good matrix material,
yes,
what's the mechanism of the
remodeling?
bad
The matrix material is constantly being remodeled. Constantly. It's not like it's nothing stagnant in the body. The matrix material is constantly being broken up. There's enzymes specifically designed to break up the matrix so that you can rebuild the matrix. Like they're scavenged. They break down the old matrix so new matrix can build. This is how the body is structured or is built up. But here's something really interesting for you. You're going to love this. Cancer cells make enzymes that destroy the matrix. Why do you suppose they do that?
Because they don't want to be kept in a
so they can metastasize. That's how they metastasize. They drill into the matrix. So one of the best things you could do if you want to fight cancer, prevent cancer, you have cancer, is build your matrix, is strengthen the matrix. Because the mechanism for metastases, not to mention aging and all kinds of health misery, is deterioration of the matrix. All diseases that have an itis in them are really about matrix breakdown. All disease is cell disease, but the bridge between our symptoms and the cell disease is deterioration of the matrix. So building the matrix is one of the most important things you could ever do for anti-aging, for fighting disease. And it's one of the reasons why bone broth is such a powerful food. And by matrix building foods like fucoidan is a matrix building food, are so helpful. Because building the matrix reverses the aging process or the general deterioration process. In skincare, topical vitamin C, topical fat soluble C, topical retinol, peels, dermabrasion, microdermabrasion, all of these strategies are partially effective because they break up the matrix and they turn on they encourage the production of new matrix.
I'm not going to try and keep you here forever, but you mentioned also.
Last thing I'll say. The most important vitamin for building the matrix.
C.
You got it. That's exactly right. That's what C does, is it builds the matrix. Go ahead. That was excellent. And I'm very impressed.
I pay attention.
You know some stuff.
When you speak, I pay attention.
You do know some stuff.
But I pay attention to you. So now, when you said early in the show, I was watching, you also talked about sulfate. And again,
I gotta go. I'm late. That's a good topic, though. Let's say that for tonight.
All right, folks.
That's a really good topic. That's such a good topic. I don't want to give a short trip. Sulfate. I will say this: sulfate may be the most underappreciated. Hang on a second here. Hang on a second. See, I'm late. I got a call here.
Tell him you're coming.
Nick, I'm doing a radio thing. Can I call you back? You tell me. An hour and a half's fine. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, bye.
All right, folks. So Ben just gave us an extra hour and a half.
No, I did not. Sulfate. Okay. Sulfate is it's arguably the most underappreciated nutrient. It's not exactly a mighty 90 essential nutrient, but it's close. But it might be the most underappreciated nutrient in the body. It's not essential; the body can make it, but there's so many reasons why it's valuable and important. And we should talk about that.
And you talked about the sun and that, and then
the sun. Did I talk about that on the show?
Sun and structured water and
yeah, I love talking about that.
Folks on Rumble, Nancy, I'm sorry we didn't get to your question. Nancy mentioned how she appreciates you and Doc's approach. Folks, if we did not get to your question, please go ask your questions by email at questions@dailywithdoc.com or call the team. Pharmacist Ben, Becca Dukes, I appreciate you both very, very much. And will we see you on Friday on Daily with Doc?
Me? I think so, yeah. The 5th?
Yeah. Friday the 5th. Daily with Doc. Any parting words?
Yes, you're not sick, you're starving. There's no health challenge, chronic degenerative disease that you cannot improve the symptoms of and the prognosis of, and even ultimately, if you do it correctly, reverse by using lifestyle strategies, chief of which is getting on a good nutritional supplement program.
Good nutritional supplement program, and I don't know one better than what is contained in Tangy Tangerine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you want to learn more about Tangy Tangerine, you can go to Tangy Tangerine Living. And if you want to know more about what Pharmacist Ben does, you can go to Truth Treatments. And if you want to know what he's telling you about the gut and the bloodstream and the adrenals, you can go to triangleofdisease.com. Yeah. Oh, you know what? You know what? Which one? You know which one I forgot? Pharmacist Ben is. We got a brand new one.
Will you send me links to all of these?
Fucoidenlife.com is the new one, the newest in the family of instructional websites that we have. Fucoidenlife.com. If you want to learn more about Fucoiden, and if you want to reach Ben and get his personal phone number, it's right here at truthtreatments.com. Call him, blow his phone up, and Ben, love you.
Where are you on? Truthtreatments.com?
Yeah, truthtreatments.com. Blow his phone up. That's
we talk skincare. We could talk skincare sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you guys.
Thank you, man. We really appreciate you. Have a good one. Have a good night. Thank you.